I never thought family could get you worse than a switchblade. But there I was, 25 and staring at the smoldering heap of my life's work in Aunt Lydia's backyard fire pit, the acrid smoke stinging my eyes like accusations I couldn't dodge. She'd done it with a smile, that saccharine southern drawl of hers cooing, "Darlin', these ain't nothin' but scribbles clutterin' up my guest room, time to make space for somethin' real." And the real kicker? She'd confessed over cheap Merlot that night, her breath hot against my ear, that she'd been the one who swiped Daddy's painkillers from the family stash all those years ago, framing me for the theft that got me kicked out of art school and shipped off to juvie like yesterday's trash because, in her words, blood keeps its secrets. Chloe, even if it means burnin' a few bridges. The flames licked higher, devouring the last of my portfolio, the one I'd slaved over in stolen hours between flipping burgers at that greasy spoon off I-95 in Raleigh. Each canvas represented a piece of me I'd clawed back from the abyss, the jagged reds of Daddy's chemo-ravaged face, the bruised blues of Mama's empty grave after the overdose no one talked about. Aunt Lydia had always been the pillar, the one who swooped in after the funeral pyre of our family imploded, taking me under her wing in that cookie-cutter colonial in Charlotte. "You're safe with me, sugar," she'd purred, her manicured nails digging just a tad too deep into my shoulder. Safe. What a joke. That word tasted like ash now, same as the charcoaled remnants of my dreams floating up into the Carolina night sky. I didn't scream. Didn't lunge for the hose snaking across the lawn like some Lifetime movie heroine. No. I just stood there in my paint-splattered overalls, the kind that smelled like turpentine and regret, watching her fan the fire with a garden rake like she was tending a goddamn barbecue. Lydia was 52 going on invincible, with her teased blonde bob and those knockoff Chanel pearls that screamed, "I've arrived," to every PTA meeting and church potluck. She'd clawed her way up from the same trailer park dirt as Mama, but where my mother drowned in it, Lydia polished hers into something shiny. Realtor of the Year 3 times running, board member at the Junior League, the aunt who baked pecan pies for orphans but couldn't spare a closet for my brushes. "Art's a hobby, Chloe," she'd say, eyes narrowing over her bifocals. "Not a life. Not like what I've built." Built on what? That's the secret she'd buried deeper than Daddy's ashes in that urn on her mantel, the one she dusted religiously but never opened. It started unraveling that very night, as the embers died down and she dragged me inside for a proper talk. The kitchen island gleamed under the pendant lights, a shrine to her domestic empire, marble counters scarred from knife fights with heirloom tomatoes, a fridge humming with meal prep Tupperware labeled in her looping script. She poured us both a finger of bourbon, Maker's Mark, because she was one of the guys now, and slid mine across like a peace offering. "You gotta understand, darlin'. This is for your own good." Her voice was honey over gravel, the kind that could sell a flooded basement as waterfront property. I sipped, the burn grounding me, and that's when she spilled it not all at once, but in drips, like a leaky faucet you ignore until the floor caves. Daddy's addiction wasn't just pills, it was the whole rotten ecosystem. He'd been skimming from his construction crew's petty cash to feed it, and when the foreman came knocking, Lydia had covered for him. Covered with my name. Forged a note in my girlish scrawl. Planted the empties in my backpack. I was 16, already sketching my way out of the grief, and she turned me into the family scapegoat. Juvie for 6 months. Art school scholarship yanked. Dreams deferred like a bad check. Why? The word escaped me, raw as road rash. She leaned in. Her perfume, Chanel No. 5 knockoff. Always cloying in the close air. Because you're like your mama.
Chloe. Wild.
Unstable. I saved you from yourself.
Saved.
There it was again. But her eyes flickered. Just once. To the window where the fire's glow lingered like a bruise. Unstable? That was her projection. The woman who'd clawed her way into Uncle Ray's wallet before his heart attack left her a merry widow with a McMansion and a Mercedes. Ray had been the real estate kingpin. She'd been the secretary with ambitions. Now she was queen. But queens get lonely. And loneliness makes monsters. I slept in the guest room that night, or tried to, on sheets that smelled like lavender Febreze masking mildew. The walls closed in, papered in florals that screamed 1990s desperation. And I traced the patterns with my finger, imagining them as veins leading to escape routes. By dawn, I was gone. Packed a duffel with the clothes on my back, my sketch pad, the one thing she'd overlooked, and hitched a ride south to Savannah, where the marshes whispered promises of reinvention. No note.
No backward glance.
Just the hum of the interstate under my thumb and the ghost of those flames chasing me like unpaid debts. Savannah swallowed me whole. A humid embrace of Spanish moss and wrought iron balconies that hid sins in their filigree. I crashed on a cousin's couch, distant, twice removed, the kind who asks questions but doesn't wait for answers, and waitressed at a dive bar on River Street, slinging oysters and IPAs to tourists with drawls thicker than the fog off the harbor. Nights, I painted in the alley behind the bar, using cardboard flats and stolen acrylics from the Five and Dime. My style evolved there, raw and unfiltered, cityscapes bleeding into bayou fever dreams, faces half-melted like Dolly on moonshine. No more pretty portraits for Aunt Lydia's mantle. This was vengeance in pigment, strokes that screamed what words couldn't. Words spread slow, like kudzu on a chain-link fence. First, a local gallery scout, bearded hipster in linen slacks, snapped pics on his iPhone during a tipsy critique session. "This shit's got teeth," he muttered, buying me a Sazerac on the house. Then came the whispers in the art scene, that underground pulse of open mics and pop-up shows where trust fund brats mingled with ex-cons like me. By month 3, I had a solo exhibit lined up at the Gritty Canvas, a hole-in-the-wall space wedged between a vape shop and a tattoo parlor. Chloe Voss, Scars and Ochre. I named it after the color of juvie bruises, the shade of bourbon in Lydia's glass. The opening night was electric, the air thick with cigarette haze and the tang of cheap wine. Bodies pressed close, tattooed poets, silver-haired collectors, a scattering of drag queens in feathered boas, murmuring over my pieces like they were confessions. "It's like she's painting the underbelly of the South," one critic typed furiously into her laptop. Her red lips pursed. I floated through it all in a thrift store slip dress, barefoot on the splintered pine floors, feeling seen for the first time since the fire. Until my phone buzzed in my pocket, a Charleston number I hadn't blocked yet. "Lydia." "Chloe, baby girl, that you makin' waves down there?" Her voice slithered through the speaker, all faux warmth and undertow. I'd ignored her voicemails for weeks, rambling apologies laced with Bible verses, but this one hooked me. "Saw your name in the Post and Courier. Proud as punch. When you comin' home?" Home. The word twisted like a knife in gristle. I stepped out onto the fire escape, the iron groaning under my weight, and lit a menthol, the cherry glowing like a tiny accusation. Below, the street pulsed with late-night revelers, laughter bubbling up like swamp gas. "Home's a myth. Aunt Lyd. You torched it." Silence, then a sigh that could curdle milk. I was wrong.
Darlin'. Scared.
Your talent. It reminded me too much of what I lost.
Ray.
The dreams I buried. Let me make it right. Come back. I've got connections, real ones. Not these flea market galleries. Connections. That's when the hook sank deeper. She'd name-dropped Harlan Graves, the big-shot curator from New York's Metrolux Gallery. The kind of place that turned nobodies into somebodies overnight. He's scoutin' Southern voices, she cooed. I mentioned you. He's interested. Lies? Maybe. But the seed planted, and doubt is a fertile soil for fools. I hung up, ground out the cig on the railing, and stared at the stars smudged by city light. Pride warred with pragmatism. The starving artist trope was romantic until the rent check bounced. What if this was my shot? What if forgiving her bought me the ladder up? I didn't go back. Not yet. But I called Harlan the next day, voice steady as I pitched my work over lukewarm coffee in a Tybee Island diner. He listened, that gravelly Brooklyn bark cutting through static. Kid, send slides. If it's half as raw as your aunt says. There it was, her fingerprints, already smudging my ascent. I shipped the digitals that afternoon, heart pounding like a jackhammer on asphalt. Weeks blurred into a fever of new canvases, each brushstroke a middle finger to the past. And then, the email. Chloe Voss. We want 12 pieces for the Emerging South exhibit. Opening in 6 months. Travel. Lodging. Commission. Standard boilerplate. Elation hit like moonshine. Sharp. Then sickly. Lydia's doing? Or mine? I texted her a single emoji, a flame, and she replied with a string of hearts.
See?
Family fixes what it breaks. But as I prepped for the flight north, packing my darlings into bubble wrap like fragile egos, unease gnawed. The betrayal wasn't just the fire, it was the theft of agency. The way she'd puppeteered my ruin and now dangled redemption like bait. Savannah faded in the rear view as I drove to the airport, palms sweating on the wheel. New York waited, a concrete jungle of reinvention. But secrets have long shadows, and mine was stretching back to Charlotte, hungry for the light. The Metrolux loomed like a monolith on West 57th, all glass and steel-etched with the grime of a million rainy commutes. I arrived early, duffel slung over one shoulder, canvases cradled like newborns, the subway's metallic tang still clinging to my jeans. Harlan Graves met me in the loading dock, a bear of a man in rumpled tweed, his beard flecked with gray like frost on kudzu. Voss, he grunted, clapping my back hard enough to rattle ribs. Lydia wasn't overselling. This work, it's got that Southern Gothic bite, but with teeth. Basquiat meets O'Keeffe on a bender. We toured the space, his wingtips echoing off white walls that smelled of fresh spackle and old money. My pieces hung provisional, spotlights carving drama from their chaos, juvie blues, a swirl of cerulean and black evoking lockdown isolation, widow's pie, ochre crust cracking over voids of crimson loss. Harlan paced, cigar unlit between his teeth, muttering about narrative arcs and market viability. Viable. The word slithered like a salesman's pitch. Back home, viable meant paychecks. Here, it meant pedigrees and 7-figure auctions. That night, I crashed in a Chelsea walk-up sublet, the kind with roaches the size of palmettos and walls thin as gossip. Jet lag mixed with adrenaline kept me wired, sketching feverishly by the light of a single bulb swinging like a noose. Lydia called at midnight Eastern, 10 p.m. Her time, her voice bubbling through like champagne gone flat. "How's the big apple treatin', my girl? Harlan's singing your praises." I paced the linoleum, bare feet sticking to spills from tenants past. "It's surreal."
LYD.
Like stepping into someone else's fever dream. She laughed. That tinkling bell that masked mania. "That's the Voss fire in you. But listen, don't let M lowball. You're worth top dollar." Worth. Another hook. I hadn't told her about the exhibit stipend, peanuts, but enough for a month's rent, or the buzz starting in art blogs. Whispers of the next big Southern voice. Instead, I probed. "How do you really know Harlan? Old flames? Real estate deals?" A pause. The kind that stretches like taffy. "Business,
Darlin.
Ray and he crossed paths at a fundraiser. Water under the bridge. But bridges burn, and I could hear the creak of one cracking. We hung up with air kisses, but sleep evaded me, chased by memories of her rake stoking those flames. The weeks blurred into a grind, critiques with pretentious MFA types who dissected my work like coroners at a crime scene, too autobiographical, dial back the trauma porn. Schmoozing at gallery crawls where champagne flutes clinked like judgments. I thrived in the chaos. My Southern drawl a novelty that disarmed the Yankees. My paintings selling piecemeal to collectors with Wall Street wallets. One piece, ashes to ochre, fetched 15 grand at a pop-up auction, enough to buy out my sublet for 6 months. I wired half to a savings account, the rest on supplies, oils from pearl paint, a proper easel that didn't wobble like Lydia's lies. But she wouldn't stay buried. Envelopes started arriving at the gallery, forwarded from her Charlotte P.O. box, clippings from the Times, dog-eared pages from Art Forum with my name circled in red Sharpie. Notes scrawled on the back. "Knew you had it in you."
Proud mama hen. Mama hen.
The gall curdled my gut. She wasn't my mother, God. No, but she'd played the role, molding me in her image until I cracked. I shredded them in the studio sink, watching confetti swirl down the drain like aborted secrets. Harlan noticed my edge during install week, pulling me aside amid the hum of drill bits and cursing texts. "Trouble in paradise? Your aunt's been emailing, pushing for a feature in Southern Living. Says it's family branding." Family branding. I laughed, bitter as black coffee. "Tell her to brand her own damn cattle. This is my rodeo now." He chuckled, but his eyes sharpened. Curators smell blood like sharks. That night, over ramen in a Hell's Kitchen hole, he spilled Lydia's connections weren't vintage. She'd been hounding him for months, dangling dirt on Ray's shady deals, kickbacks from developers. The kind that greased zoning boards but stuck to reputations. "She's got leverage," Harlan said, slurping noodles. "But I don't bend. Your work stands alone." Alone. The word echoed as I walked the neon-veined streets, rain slicking my skin like oil. Did she engineer this? Plant me here to launder her guilt? The opening gala hit like a freight train, black-tie vultures circling under chandeliers that dripped light like honeyed venom. I wore a borrowed sheath from a stylist's assistant, emerald silk that hugged like accusation, and navigated the crowd with a flute of Veuve in hand. Smile plastered like wet clay. Critics cooed, collectors bid, a senator's wife gushed about the raw authenticity of American decay. Then, the text, Lydia, with a selfie from her airport lounge, pearls gleaming.
Surprise.
Flying up for the show. Be there by curtain. Panic spiked. Hot as moonshine burn. She hadn't asked, she never did. She swept in fashionably late. A vision in St. Jaw knit, and heels that clicked like countdowns. Hugs were mandatory. Her embrace clammy with Chanel and calculation. Look at you, glowin' like a firefly in a jar. The room tilted as she worked it, handshakes with Harlan. Air kisses to buyers. Her laugh, a siren call drawing eyes. Chloe's my niece. You know. Raised her from the ashes after our family tragedy. Tragedy. Her script. My scar. We posed for photos. Arms linked like conjoined twins. Flashbulbs popping like gunfire. But under the glamour, her grip tightened, nails biting crescents into my flesh. We need to talk, she whispered, breath sour with jet lag and bourbon. Privately. We slipped into a service corridor. The din muffled to a hum. Walls lined with crates of unsold dreams. She lit a Virginia Slim, contraband in this nanny state city, exhaling smoke like a dragon guarding gold. You're blowing up,
Darlin'.
but fame's a double-edged sword. Remember that pill thing? Cops could still sniff around if someone jogs a memory. Blackmail. Served neat. My blood iced. You threatening me? After all this? She stubbed the cig on a crate. Eyes gleaming wet. Protecting you. Like always. Sign this. She thrust a folder. Contracts for a family foundation exhibit. Her name co-producer. Royalties split 60-40 her way. We rise together. Or not at all. Rage boiled. Slow as Carolina stew. I snatched the papers. Tore them into confetti. Let it rain on her Louboutins. Rise? You buried me. This is my climb.
Solo.
Her face crumpled, not tears, but fury. The mask slipping to reveal the schemer beneath. Ungrateful brat. I made you. Made me? Like Frankenstein's monster. Stitched from stolen parts. She stormed out, heels echoing accusations, leaving me amid the debris. The gala blurred after that, sales tallied, toasts raised, but victory tasted pyrrhic, laced with the venom of her shadow. Back in the walk-up, I painted through the night, Andy's ashes, her face emerging from flames that weren't quite fire, more like the glow of a conscience charring. Dawn found me wrecked, but resolute. Call Harlan? Lawyer up? No. The revenge simmered sweeter cold. Let her stew in Charlotte, watching my star rise from afar. But as I crashed, phone buzzing with congrats. One notification chilled, a LinkedIn alert. Lydia Voss Realtor. Updated profile. Proud patron of emerging artist Chloe Voss. Watch this space.
Patron.
The words stuck like burrs. She was rewriting the narrative, claiming credit before the ink dried. Game on. Aunt LYD. But whose rules? Fall deepened in the city. Leaves carpeting the parks in rust and regret, mirroring the bruise blooming on my career. The Metrolux buzz propelled me into a whirlwind. Podcast invites from NPR affiliates dissecting the betrayal motif in Voss's oeuvre, features in hyperallergic hailing me as the South's vengeful visionary. Checks cleared, modest at first, then swelling like the East River tide, and I upgraded to a Bushwick loft. The kind with exposed brick and a skylight that framed storms like private screenings. But Lydia's patron ploy festered. A splinter under the nail. Galleries whispered, "Your aunt's pushing hard, says she's funding your next series." Funding? From Ray's ghost money. No doubt. Laundered through her charm offensives. I ignored her calls. Blocked the emails. But she adapted like kudzu, slipping in via proxies. A package arrived at the studio, archival frames, gold-leafed and ostentatious, with a card for the family jewels.
Love. Elle.
Family jewels. I hurled them into the alley, where they shattered like her facade. Harlan pulled me aside at a MoMA mixer, his breath beery. She's offering to underwrite your retrospective. Big bucks, 6 figures. But strings?
Kid.
Always strings. Strings. The puppeteer never retires. I demurred, citing creative control, but doubt crept. Was I sabotaging my shot out of spite? Art's a business. After all, starving's poetic until the lights flicker. Thanksgiving loomed. That American ritual of forced gratitude, and isolation hit like a nor'easter. I flew south on impulse, not to Lydia's, but to Mama's old haunt in Beaufort, a saltbox cottage sagging under live oaks like weary shoulders. The realtor, irony's bite, let me in for a night, keys cold in my palm. Inside, dust motes danced in shafts of gray light, furniture shrouded like corpses. I found her sketchbooks in the attic, brittle pages yellowed with time, wild abstracts, feral lines that echoed my own.
Mama.
The artist I'd never known, her talent snuffed by pills and poverty. Lydia's sister, her shadow. Had she trashed these two? In some prequel to my fire, I stayed 3 days, painting on the porch as gulls screamed overhead, channeling ghosts into gouache. Sisters in Smoke, the series birthed there, diptychs of women half erased, one hand clutching matches, the other brushes. Back in Brooklyn, I shopped them to a smaller house, the Ironclad Gallery. Edgier, less corporate.
Elena.
The director, a wiry Latina with tattoos snaking up her arms.
Got it instantly.
This is personal.
Raw.
No polish, that's the sell. The show booked for spring. Invite only. The kind that builds legends and lofts. Not ballrooms. Lydia caught wind. Of course. She materialized at my door unannounced. How? A tale from Harlan's office. Maybe, bearing a key lime pie still warm from some airport bakery. Her smile the rictus. Missed you at Christmas?
Darling.
Thought we'd bury the hatchet proper. The loft smelled of citrus and deceit as she bustled in, heels snagging on drop cloths, surveying my chaos like a general scouting terrain.
Cozy.
But you could use a woman's touch. I barred the door behind her, arms crossed over my overalls. What do you want? El Whitey? Really? She set the pie on a crate, slicing methodical as a surgeon.
You. Us.
Partnership. The pitch tumbled out. Co-cure at the Ironclad show. Her Rolodex for high rollers. A cut of sales to seed the Voss legacy. Legacy. Her eyes gleamed, not with pride, but possession, the same glint when she'd pocketed Ray's life insurance windfall. I ate a forkful.
Tatnes masking rat.
And the pills? The frame job? That legacy built on my back. Her fork paused midair. Ancient history. Forgiven in the Lord's eyes. But if you push. The threat hung. Velvet-gloved. Push what? The cops? The blogs? She'd flip the script. Doting aunt. Wayward niece with a grudge. We argued through the pie. Voices rising like steam, her defending tough love, me hurling accusations of theft. Not just art but identity. You stole Mama's spark too, didn't you? Burned her books before I could find them. Her face blanched.
Pie vergaten.
You don't know nothin' about her. But I did. Now, enough to see the cracks. She left in a huff, slamming the door that echoed like a gavel. Victory? Or escalation? My hands shook as I texted Elena. Show's on. No patrons but me. Spring erupted in scandal. The ironclad opening drew the right crowd, influencers with ironic mustaches, critics nursing grudges against the establishment. My sister's series hung like indictments, whispers rippling. Is this about family? That aunt in the Times profile? Lydia had leaked embellished, no doubt, to a society page, hack, painting herself as the martyr muse. Chloe's fire came from our hearth. The quote read, beside a photo of her at a charity gala, check in hand for emerging artists. My phone exploded, reporters probing, Elena fielding calls. Leverage it, she advised. Turn the knife. I did. In an Arnett interview, betrayals the best muse. Some family torches your work. You rise from the cinders. Clicks surged. Sales spiked. Sisters in Smoke 3 to a tech bro for $25K. But Lydia countered. Vicious as a viper, a cease and desist from her lawyer. Claiming IP theft on family motifs. Motifs?
My blood.
My pain. Harlan mediated. Neutral ground at a midtown steakhouse. The air thick with ribeye sizzle and tension. She arrived powdered and poised. Me in ripped Levi's. This ends now, she hissed over fillets. Sign the NDA.
Split the proceeds.
Or I go public with everything. Everything. The word detonated. Post-dinner. In the cab's vinyl womb, she broke, not tears, but a torrent. Ray hadn't just died, she'd eased him out. Extra morphine in his 4 during that routine hospital stay. Mercy? Or mercy killing for the inheritance? He was suffering.
Chloe.
Like your daddy. I ended it clean.
Clean.
Her euphemism for murder. And the pills? A gateway sin. Testing waters she'd later drown in. I recoiled. The city lights blurring. You're a monster. She laughed. Hollow. We're all monsters.
Darlin'.
I just wear the mask better. The NDA loomed. But I burned it in the loft sink, flames small. Symbolic. Public war it was. I blogged the truth. Anonymized but barbed. When guardians become gravediggers. Virality hit. Aunt betrayal trended. Podcasters dissected. Therapists opined on toxic kin. Lydia lawyered up harder. Countersuits flying like confetti at a funeral.
But the twist?
Harlan bailed on her patronage, citing ethics. Elena booked me for a TEDx on resilience. Momentum shifted. My star eclipsing her shadow. Yet as summer scorched the asphalt, doubt gnawed. Was I avenging or annihilating? Her texts turned pleading. Stop this. For Mama. Mama. Whose sketches I'd digitized. Shared online. Proof of lineage unburned. The breaking point came in July. A sweltering gallery crawl where she cornered me amid the throng. Sweat beaded her cleavage.
Pearls ask you.
You win.
Chloe.
But at what cost? Her hand on my arm. Trembling. I'm selling the house. Debts from Ray's messes. Your war tanked my listings, clients smell scandal. Schadenfreude soured. The McMansion. Her empire's cornerstone. Foreclosed? I pulled away. But not before seeing the fracture. Not schemer, but shattered woman. Clutching relics of control. Good. I spat. But it rang false. As she melted into the crowd, I wondered, had I become her? Torching bridges for the thrill of flames? August baked the city into submission. Air conditioners wheezing like asthmatic confessions. and my revenge arc teetered on the razor's edge. The betrayals storm had crested, op-eds in the Post debating familial collateral in the art world, therapists on TikTok unpacking my unresolved attachment wounds. Sales poured in. Enough for a down payment on a proper studio in Red Hook, but sleep fractured into shards of what-ifs. What if Lydia's mercy for Ray was just desperate love, twisted by loss? What if my exposes weren't justice, but public flaying? Elena called it the controversy premium. Buyers loved the drama, snapping up sisters' prince-like souvenirs from a train wreck. Lydia went radio silent, a void louder than her barbs. No lawsuits, no leaks, just crickets from Charlotte. I flew down uninvited, rental car humming hymns on I-85, the skyline giving way to strip malls and steeples. The McMansion neighborhood looked the same, lawns manicured to obsession, mailboxes fat with flyers for block parties I'd never attend. Hers sagged, though for sale sign crooked in the yard, windows dark as omissions. I parked curbside, engine ticking cool, and watched a moving truck belch forth like vomit, boxes labeled Lydia's China, Ray's trophies, ghosts evicted. She emerged mid-unpack, hair limp in a ponytail, overalls smeared with the grime of defeat. No makeup, no pearls, just hollow cheeks and eyes like spent cartridges. Chloe, my name. Not darlin', raw. Stripped. We stood in the driveway, humidity clouding the air, cicadas droning judgment. Come to gloat. I shook my head, throat tight. Came to understand. Inside, the house echoed hollow, furniture gone, walls naked save scuff marks like accusations. We sat on the kitchen floor, backs to cabinets that once hid her bourbon, sharing a warm PBR from the emptying fridge. It poured out, unbidden, a confessional deluge. Ray's decline wasn't just health. He'd gambled the firm into oblivion. Lovers on the side like bad bets. She'd covered, cooked books, dosed him to peace when the pain and the truth threatened exposure. I loved him wrong.
Chloe.
Like I loved you, fierce, but flawed.
Flawed.
The pills for daddy? A preemptive strike. Fearing his habit would drag her down too. You were collateral. Sweet girl. The innocent the first sacrifice to save the family name.
Name.
Voss. A vessel for her voids. Mama's overdose? Not accident. Lydia's ultimatum. Choose art or us, pushing her sister over the edge. She was weak. I made her strong. Or tried. Horror coiled in my gut. But pity slithered in too. Two women warped by the same patriarchal plow. Tilling fields of resentment. Why burn my paintings? The question. Small as a spent match. She traced a floorboard crack. Jealousy.
Pure.
You bloomed where I withered. Reminded me of her, of what I could have been. Could have. The road not taken. Paved with pigments instead of properties. We cried then, ugly and unscripted. Salt mingling with sweat on the linoleum. I'm sorry, she whispered, hand finding mine. Let me help. One last time. Help. The word, weaponized before, now begged. She had a lead, the Metrolux, post-scandal, seeking a redemption arc series. Harlan, hedging bets, floated co-credit, her as consultant, me as visionary. Controversial? Hell yes. Critics would howl Nepo art or Stockholm canvas. But the payday, a solo wing. Touring nationally. Residuals for years. I wavered. The floor cool under me. Forgiveness as commerce? Or closure as canvas? Think on it, she said, standing stiff. House closes Friday. After that. Poof.
Poof.
Like smoke from a fire pit. Back in Brooklyn. Indecision festered. I painted feverishly. Mercy matches, Lydia's silhouette striking flames that birthed. Not burned. Figures in the blaze, me.
Dama.
Her. Elena hated it. Too conciliatory. Milk the feud, it's your brand.
Brand.
Again. Harlan emailed terms. 50-50 split. Her bio as familial muse.
Muse.
I paced the loft. Rain lashing windows like lashes. Call her bluff? Or bridge the chasm? The decision crystallized at 3 a.m.
Phone in hand. Yes.
But on my terms, no whitewashing the dirt. The press conference was a circus, flashbulbs popping like popcorn in a microwave, reporters baying from folding chairs in the Metrolux atrium. Lydia and I flanked Harlan, her in pearls reclaimed from pawn, me in overalls for irony. Today, he boomed, we unveil Voss Reckoning, a dialogue between kin. Art as atonement. Questions flew. Is this exploitation? Reconciliation or rebranding? Lydia fielded with grace. Voice steady. We've heard each other. This heals. Heals. Her hand brushed mine under the podium, tremble shared.
Me?
I leaned in, mic hot. It's messy. Betrayal's not binary, it's blood. We're owning the gray.
Gray.
The crowd murmured. Divided. Applause from romantics. Jeers from cynics. Voss versus trended anew. Memes of us as gladiators in paint-splattered togas. Sales pre-booked. Millions projected. The series a Rorschach for the divided American soul, family as foe. Forgiveness as folly, but cracks spidered. During install, Lydia confessed more. The house sale? A ploy. She bought it back via Shell LLC, leveraging Ray's old cronies. To lure you home. Force the talk. Misdirection. Her specialty. Rage flared anew. Trust. That fragile filament. Snapped. You played me again. She shrugged.
Eyes sly. Had to.
You wouldn't come otherwise. Schemer to the marrow. Flipping vulnerability to victory. I yanked her name from the plaques. Harlan protesting. This torpedoes the narrative. Narrative. Their crutch. My cage. The blowback hit pre-opening. Leaks, her doing, of creative differences, whispers of my temperament. Buyers hedged. Critics sharpened knives. Elena jumped ship to a rival, citing toxicity. Alone again. But weaponized, I rehung solo. Retitled, Reckoning Unchained. The gala night crackled, crowd electric. Air thick with schadenfreude. My pieces screamed independence. Strokes wilder. Uncompromised. Bids soared. Harlan cornered and contrite. You were right. This sells pure. Lydia arrived late. Uninvited. Face a mask of frost. You cut me out. Accusation. Laced with hurt. We dueled in the coat check. Voices hushed daggers. You lied. Again. She deflated. Then rallied. For us. To prove you're stronger without me. Stronger. Or scarred. As she left. Coat billowing like a shroud. I glimpsed the twist. Pity. Not for her. But us, two Voss women. Chained to cycles of sabotage. Each other's worst muse. Reviews crowned it. Voss's triumph. Art from the ashes of alliance. But as confetti fell and champagne flowed, my phone vibrated, a voicemail from an unknown 704 number. Not Lydia. A detective. Gravel-voiced. MS. Voss, regarding your aunt's activities. Ray's death. We need to talk. The room spun. Victory souring to vertigo. Her secrets, spilling now, not by my hand, but fate's. What had I unleashed? And whose side was justice on? Autumn winds howled off the Hudson, stripping trees bare as Lydia's alibis. And the detective's call hung like a guillotine. I met him in a precinct coffee shop off Canal, the kind with formica tables scarred like old wounds and brew that tasted of regret. Detective Ruiz, stocky, mustache like a broom bristle, stirred sugar into sludge, eyes unblinking. Anonymous tip. Ray Voss, your uncle. Overdose. Official. But whispers say assisted. Assisted. Her word. Now weapon. I gripped my styrofoam cup, ridges biting palms.
And me?
Why call? He slid a file across. Photos yellowed. Ray's chart. Morphine logs fudged in looping script. Hers. Family ties. You're named in her will. Motive check. Motive. For what? Exposing her? Or inheriting her sins? I laughed. Brittle. Check all you want. I torch bridges, not lives. He nodded. But the hook sank. Stay in town. Things move fast.
Fast.
Like the scandal's second wave crashing. Leaks to Gawker. Voss heiress and murder probe. My agent ghosted. Galleries hedged bookings. The triumph curdled overnight. Lydia called from a burner. How'd she get the number? Voice frayed as denim.
Don't talk.
Lawyer up. It's a bluff. Bluff. Her default. I met her in a Jersey motel. Neutral ground. Neon vacancy buzzing like accusations. She paced the shag carpet. Cigarette trembling. Ray begged for it. Notes. Witnesses I covered tracks. But loose ends fray. Fray. Like us. She spilled the rest. Not just Ray, Daddy's accident on the site. Scaffold sabotage to cash insurance. Her fingerprints on the bribes. I built the empire on bones.
Chloe.
Yours included.
Bones.
The foundation of her McMansion. My exile. Horror warred with horror. Pity for the girl she'd been. Clawing from trailers. Choices calcifying into crimes. Why confess now? She stubbed the cig in an ashtray shaped like Florida, irony's vacation. Because you forced it. Your art. It peeled me raw. No more masks.
Raw.
Like my canvases. We plotted. Her surrender. My silence. Plea deal for lesser counts. Me testifying to context, not complicity. Controversial? A daughter's defense of a killer aunt-mom figure? The tabloids would feast. Readers picking sides, enabler or empath. The climax brewed in court. A federal beast in Charlotte. Wood-paneled and whispery with AC hum. I flew coach. Stomach knotted. Landing in rain that sheeted the tarmac like tears. Lydia in orange. Unflinching. Her bob severed to practical crop. The prosecution painted her viper. Fraud. Manslaughter. A lifetime of larceny. Defense countered. Battered widow. Mercy's martyr. My turn came day 3. Sworn in under fluorescence that hummed judgment. MS. Voss. The DA drawled. You profited from her empire. Complicit. Complicit. The word. A mirror. I faced the jury, housewives with pearl clutches, blue collars with callous doubt, and spoke truth unvarnished. She broke me, framed me, burned my dreams. But she also raised me when blood wouldn't. Monsters aren't born, they're forged in fire.
Fire.
The room stirred, pencils scratching frenzy. Lydia's eyes met mine across the bar. Gratitude? Or calculation? The twist landed in closing. Her lawyer called a surprise witness, me. But deeper. DNA results. Rushed. Lydia Voss is Chloe's biological mother. Adoption hushed post-birth. Your grandmother's scandal. Gasps rippled. Flashbulbs erupted.
Mother?
The courtroom dissolved into chaos. Bailiff barking order. Lydia, my mother, watched. Tears carving tracks in minimal makeup. Had to, she mouthed. Had to what? Protect? Or possess? The revelation split the gallery. Cheers from her allies. Family's secret. Tragic. Boos from mine. Ultimate betrayal. I stumbled out. Rain soaking through. Mind reeling. Mama wasn't the overdose ghost. Lydia had birthed me. Then banished my wild spark by proxy. Fearing her own echo. Verdict dropped at dusk. Guilty on fraud. Manslaughter plea, 15 years. Eligible parole in 7. No death penalty dance, but life in stripes. She hugged me through bars, visitation glass smudged, whispering, "Raise your hell higher, baby girl." For us both.
Us.
Blood. Unburnable now. I left with the file Ruiz pressed into my hand. Full dossier. Her confessions taped. A get-out-of-jail card if I flipped. But I burned it in a Charlotte park. Flames small against the night. Watching embers rise like freed secrets. Back in New York. The series sold out. Reckoning reborn as blood ochre. Prices doubling on the maternal mystery. Galleries clamored. Memoirs pitched. TED Talks beckoned. Victory? Or vindication's echo? I painted alone in Red Hook. Strokes looser. Landscapes now, southern marshes reclaiming ruins. No faces. Just vast. Unclaimed space. Lydia wrote from Lowndes, postcards of generic sunsets. Proud of your rise. Don't forget the fall. Fall. Ours. Intertwined. Debate rages online. Was I hero? Hauling her to light? Or villain? Profiting from pain? Enabler of evil? Or its exorcist? No one's clean. The American dream. Built on bones and betrayals. Leaves us all stained. I end here. Brush in hand. Canvas blank as forgiveness untried. Maybe I'll visit her upstate. Share a pie through plexiglass. Or not. Revenge. It turns out, isn't a period, it's an ellipsis. Trailing into whatever hell or heaven we dare.